Okay, got it. All right, how's this?
That's good.
All right. So today we're going to go over Angular, which is I'm going to show a short intro video on Angular and then we'll get started.
Angular, a TypeScript-based framework for building user interfaces. It was developed at Google and released in 2016 as the sequel to AngularJS. As an Angular developer, you hit the ground running with its extremely powerful CLI tool. When you generate your initial application, it comes pre-configured with routing, a testing framework, and your favorite style preprocessor. In addition, the magic ng-add command can turn your app into a progressive web app, add server-side rendering, Firebase support, and do a whole bunch of other cool stuff. But at its core, Angular is just a component-based UI library. I can create a component with the CLI, and if we go into its TypeScript file, you'll notice the component decorator, which makes this TypeScript class a component. Any properties on this class are considered reactive state, and when their values change, the component will re-render the UI. For example, we can bind the property to HTML using double braces in the template. From there, we can add a button that increments this value every time it's clicked. We add the event name on the left side in parentheses, then an expression on the right side. In this case, it points to a method in our class. Each time the button is clicked, it calls the method, which changes the state and re-renders the UI. Angular also has a variety of directives for building complex templates. Use ngIf to handle conditional logic. Or if you have an iterable value, use ng-for to loop over it. But where Angular really excels is handling complexity, and one of its primary tools for doing so is called dependency injection. When your app grows to hundreds of components, you'll likely need a way to share data and functionality between them. We can take our component logic here and extract it into a service, which can be treated as a global singleton throughout the application. Now, any component that wants to use this state or logic can simply add this class to its constructor. The end result is a simple and reliable way to compose complex applications. As a developer, you can always count on a consistent experience between projects and minimal decision fatigue. This has been Angular in 100 seconds. If you want to see more short videos like this, make sure to like and subscribe, and check out a ton of advanced Angular content on Fireship.io. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.
All right, so it might have been kind of fast because it's 100 seconds of Angular, but that was a short intro and I'll be going over some slides. So what is Angular? It's an application design framework and development platform for creating efficient and sophisticated single-page applications. In short, Angular is a front-end library for creating web pages, mostly single-page. So it's similar to React and Vue if you've heard of it. So why would I use Angular? It's component based, so it's split into multiple parts, so it's very easy to visualize in code. It's used for building scalable and lightweight web apps. It has a collection of well-integrated libraries such as routing, forms management, client-server communication, and also Angular material. It has a suite of developer tools to help develop, build, test, and update code. It's very test friendly. Test code is pretty much generated with it. It's popular in enterprise business. If you heard of MeanStack before, it's used there. And over 1.7 million developers, library authors, and content creators use Angular. So it's very popular worldwide. It's used in companies, a lot of big companies. It's actually created by Google. So they use Angular in their app. So when you see the Google page, you can see that they use Angular. So when I talk about component based, that means they pretty much have components within it. So this entire page would be one huge high level component, and then it would be split into multiple parts, some subcomponents. So this top bar could be a subcomponent. This little box right here could be a subcomponent, and in those subcomponents, more components, and it could just go on forever, pretty much. Forbes also uses Angular in their app, so you can kind of visualize their components, kind of split. PayPal uses components, uses Angular. The Weather Channel also uses Angular, so it's used in a lot of common applications. Some prerequisite knowledge would be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and TypeScript. JavaScript is actually a subset of TypeScript. It's okay if you don't know it right now. You can kind of just experiment with it, but HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are pretty much like the basic foundations of front-end development. So yeah, you can go ahead and look at that. Sorry, I think I missed a question. Luke said, what's a lightweight web application? So I get lightweight. I would say that using Angular is a lot more easier than static, like coding everything in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it creates a lot more simplified code base, especially because there's already a built-in generated folder structure to the application rather than having to create everything yourself. So I think it's really easy to start. Angular essentials and components. So components are the building blocks that compose an application. They're also reusable. This is kind of a description of what it includes. It might kind of seem like a different language right now, but I'll kind of go over it. So a component consists of multiple parts. So it has the component decorator, as I mentioned right here, component decorator, HTML template, and styles. So the template is actually right here. So right now it's hard coded, but you could also put another file name in there. And so this is like what we'll visualize. The selector is what you'll use to define where to use a component. So if I put this hello world right here, the selector is the same. So it will display the template within the selector. So it's kind of like the similar format to like paragraphs and headers. So when I use hello world, the selector hello world, it will display the template like this. And you can also put in more code, TypeScript code to define your behavior of your component. And so this is a page again I just mentioned. So we can have different components. So different components, different files for each component. And you can also put dynamic data. So it doesn't have, you can reuse this component for each like Twitter post. So yeah, templates. It's an HTML template that declares how components render. You can either define it inline or by file path. So this would be inline. It's not really preferred because it can get kind of messy. So you can pretty much define HTML. Templates are used to insert dynamic values from your component. It also automatically updates the render DOM when the component state changes. You can use interpolation to insert dynamic text. Property binding is you can pretty much change the HTML element properties based on certain variables. You can also use event binding, which is pretty much changing. You can listen for and respond to user actions. Directives are also pretty neat in that you can use ngIf. So most of you have heard of if and for loops. So you can pretty much use that in your HTML code and it will dynamically modify DOM structure. It may seem kind of abstract right now, but I'll definitely go over it. So some examples is if you want to look at interpolation. So we have font color is equal to a string blue. And if you put this in your HTML code, you put two, we call this curly braces, and you put the variable name, it'll display my color is blue. So it's pretty neat. You can also put properties. So this ID of this paragraph would be 1 because you declared say hello ID in the component. Disabled button can click, it's false in the component in the TypeScript file, so it will be false. You can also use event binding. So we use the parentheses right here, same message, it refers to this method right here. So when you click this button, it will alert and display hello world, which is the message right here. So it can be used for many different things, very neat and very easy to use. Same thing right here, it can get more complicated. So ngIf, it refers to the Boolean value right here. And you can also put else, and then based on it, you can show or not show it. So since it's false right now, then you can just it won't display. So Angular command line for interface is used for Angular development. That's what we're going to use today. So ng build compiles Angular app. ng serve is used for serving the application. We'll use that today. ng generate is for generating components. We're going to also use that today. Test, we won't be using that today, but it's definitely useful if you're trying to build like a big project on it. End-to-end testing is also used with this command. These are also other libraries. We'll be using a few. We'll be using router forms today, but HTTP client is also used a lot for like if you're trying to build a full stack application. And so I will be going on to our actual implementation. So this is going to be the starting template of what we're going to do today. And if you do not have Node installed, Node, then you'll need that. Download, install Node.js and npm. And then in order to set up Angular, you're going to need this. I can go either VS Code or WebStorm. What do you guys prefer? VS. All right, we got 1-to-1. All right. Okay, I guess I'll go with WebStorm. Okay, so make sure you download npm if you don't, and Node.js if you don't have it. Also download Angular using this guide. It should be pretty easy, just a few command line commands. So I'm gonna go ahead and install my own code. I use terminal because I like to act like I'm smart, but I'm not. So, all right. Now I look like a computer science major with the command line. And then I'm gonna open this right here. And so why isn't my code showing? It's a little slow. And all right, there we go. Angular Workshop, that's my README. And before you open it, you have to download, or you can just do npm I believe that should work. It will download all the packages that are with the repo. And you guys can tell me if I'm going too fast or too slow in the chat or through voice. And then, all right. Okay, you're installing. Okay. Then I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna move on with the code yet. I'm just gonna kind of show you what's going on. So these are a lot of config files right here. Angular.js. You can look. I can't go over everything because we don't have much time, I think. So Karma is testing files. These are the packages. You can see that Angular comes with a lot of packages already. So we have the router, the forms, animations also popular. README and then tsconf. This is for TypeScript files. Yeah, see, and then it shows like you can go here and then look at the TypeScript config. And then we also have, this is for the testing. This is the global styles that are in it. I already kind of preset it for everyone. Polyfills, main, index is like the file right here. So this is actually a component, not an actual HTML element. This is the favicon environment assets. I already put a little JSON file for you. So this is the file that we'll mostly be working with. So we have the product list is actually a component. So it has all components come with a CSS file, an HTML file, and a TypeScript file. See, it's kind of similar to what we saw in the slides. We have the selector, we have the template URL, which is this file right here. And we have the styles, which is right here. And then, yeah, it should be right. So we have those styles right there. And then top bar is also has a similar folder structure to so I already have some stuff already in here just for like the skeleton, and then we're going to kind of be working as much as we can on what I've prepared. And this guide is based on the Angular website, so if you ever need help, you can also refer there. So this is the app. This is like the highest component there is. So we define app top bar, which is the pretty much a nav bar we have in this folder. And then we have the router used in this file. So, and then, yeah, I think. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna run it. If you're not using WebStorm, if you're using WebStorm, you can just use the this server right here, and you can just press run. But if you're not, then you can just run ng serve. So you can serve this application. Might take a while. It's a big project. So all right. Let me know if when you guys are kind of ready to go, or if you have any questions. So this is it's gonna be on localhost 2000 or 4200. So we have this simple website, the skeleton. So it's pretty much a store. Just has products and it has a checkout button. Nothing works right now. It's just a static website. And then we're gonna put some dynamic data for it to function correctly. Are we ready to go or still downloading? Okay. Still installing. Okay, I'll wait a few more. Okay, npm install here. Setting up. So what you can do is, oh, you'll need a homebrew on this. Okay. So Diego, do you use Mac or Windows? Mac. Okay. So you can use, so on that website above, okay, wait. All right, we're gonna do some little debugging. I haven't installed Node in a while either, so kind of okay using. So yeah, if you have Node, it should this command node v should -v should work. That should work, but if you don't have it, you can use this. Oh, is it on there? Does npm-view work? I should have told you no worries. Since yeah. You can use a Node.js installer. Yeah, you can use this. That should work. All right, I think I just have to get started because it might take a long time, if that's okay. Okay, yeah, I think I'll just get started because we don't have much time. Okay, so back to Angular. So what we're gonna do first, okay, is that we're gonna create a product list. So right here, we have products.ts. So we have an interface for each product. It will have an ID, name, price, description. And I have a list of 3 products. So we have Phone XL, Phone Mini, Phone Standard, and they all have descriptions and prices. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take this TypeScript file and we're going to display it on here, not hard coding it. We're going to actually, I'm going to show you how to dynamically display all this data. And so I'm going to go to product list, and then I'm going to go to the HTML file, and then, okay, keep that right there. I'm going to bring in this piece of code right here. So ng4. So we're going to use a directive called ng4. So for every product, we can do something within this code. So this is a variable now. And what we're going to display right now is just the product name. So I believe that should be working. And now you see that we have 3 names and we didn't hard code it. It's just all dynamic data. And if you look in the reason why that happens that way is because we imported products from this TypeScript file in the component, and then we set the variable products to the products from here. So, I mean, it's a little confusing name for variables, but what we did was, so this products carries over into this HTML file, and you can use products as a variable now with ng4, and then you can display the name. And then what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna show you how to use property binding, which is the brackets. So I'm gonna use a link, and I'm gonna put the title, which is like when you hover over the text. Okay, I'm getting error now because I didn't finish it, but it's when you hover over the text, it shows like where it's leading to. So so what I could do is I could just make title equal to link, and then it'll just every single product will have this title of link. But if I want to dynamically create it, a unique one for each piece of code, what I can do is I can get the product.name. So this is the name that's displayed right here. And then I can add details. Then I'm going to put the product name within detail. Okay, and then wait for it to load. I'll just refresh it. And it might be a little small, but if I hover over it enough, it's going to show you that there's Phone XL details. And it's blue because I can actually click on it, but it's not leading me anywhere because I don't have like a address. But so that's something you can do. That's dynamic, that's property binding. And then we're gonna also use another directive. So we have ng4 right here. And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna use um, the ng if. So this is the pretty much the same thing. Product.description description, and then my product is still valid because I'm inside this div. So I have this variable product, and then I can do description. And so what this pretty much is saying is that if an empty string is equivalent to false, and so if there's no description for the product, then this will not display at all. However, if there is, then this product description will be displayed. So once I refresh this page, it should show a description for each. And if you see right here, we have a description for the first two, but for the last one, it's an empty string. So it will not have a description for that. Yes, Google, here I come. There you go, Diego. You're gonna go Google. Okay, and then, so we have the dynamic text displayed. We use directives, and we have the property binding. And what's next? We can do event binding. So what we're gonna do right here is that we have a method right here called share. Window.alert pretty much just creates like a dialog, a console log on your screen, and it just says the product has been shared, and there's an OK button to close it. And so what we're gonna do right here is we're gonna create a button that allows you to click. So button has a property event called click. So when you click this button, it's gonna refer to the method from the TypeScript file, and it's gonna call this function right here. So I'm gonna create a button, share, and then I'm gonna show it. And so all these, there's share buttons for all of them. And then once I click one, it's gonna say the product has been shared. So that's pretty much event binding. It's just, you can create a user experience. You can allow them to interact with your page. So now we have share buttons. And so that's just a simple outline of what we can do with like HTML files and the component. You can see that they're connected, and it's really convenient to use because sometimes you want to create a method, but it's like you don't know how to transfer. You can just pretty much just use event binding, property binding. You can use the directives, interpolation with the curly brackets. So that's pretty much the basics. So we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna try and finish as much as I can. There on the GitHub repo, there's also a I have different branches set up for each kind of part of the tutorial, so you can use that as well. What we're gonna do now is we're going to create a new component. So we have two components right here, product list and top bar. What we're actually going to do is we're going to create our own custom component. So in WebStorm, there's actually a and if you like, what is it, right click, you have an option to create an Angular schematic, and then you can pretty much, it just pretty much gives you a lot of options. So there's component right here. But for those, since there's those who are not using WebStorm, I'm gonna go ahead and stop serving the app, and then I'm gonna do ng g, or you can do ng generate, but g is just use ng for short. I'm gonna type in what I'm gonna generate. I'm gonna generate a component, and I'm going to name it product alerts. So this is gonna alert to us when the product is greater. Okay, and I'm gonna generate that component. And so that generates a component for us. Where did it go? Okay, now it's here. Might take a while. And so you see that we have 4 files that come automatically. So we have the CSS file, we have the HTML, we have a spec.typescript. This is a test file. We're not going to use test today, so I'm just going to delete that. And then we have the component. So this is auto-generated by Angular, so we don't have to copy and paste all the code. You can simply just, it's like one command, and it'll create a whole TypeScript file for you. And so it creates that file, and you can see, and then we're going to work with this first. So we have a constructor and we have the lifecycle hook called ng on initialization. And so what we're going to do in this file is we're going to set up the TypeScript file first before we move on to the HTML. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the product. We need to import, input. So this is kind of passing data. We're going to learn how to pass data between different components. And then I'm going to also import product from products. So what this is importing is I'm importing, where is it? I'm importing the interface product. And then, so this is input. So I'm getting the product that I can use in my component. Then I'm going to open the HTML file. I'll just copy this, makes it easier. So I have, wait, sorry about that. Okay. So this is the HTML code for this component. So ng if there's a component and the product price is above 700, then we're going to show a button that says notify me. And then you're going to see that in the app.module TypeScript file, when we automatically generate a component, it's going to be inserted into this app.module file. But if we hard code it, then you have to, if you like copy and duplicate the file and then like copy and paste everything, then you're gonna have to manually add this. So generating makes it really convenient for us to do everything. And so this is, what this pretty much does is we're getting the product and then just making a button if this condition matches. And then we're gonna go back to the list right here. And then we have the share, and then below it, we're gonna actually use the component we just generated. So if you look back here, I mentioned that we have a selector. So if I go back here and I use that selector right there, then I'm going to get this component in this TypeScript file. However, this component takes an input, but we didn't put an input yet. So how can I input a variable for this component to function? I'm going to use the hard brackets again. So the name of the input will go right here, and then the product. This is the variable from the ng4 directive. And so when I do this, it should display a notify me. And it only displays the notify me for the top one because the price of phone XL is above 700. The rest aren't above 700, so they don't have a notify me button. And so that works. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put some functionality within that button. So if there's an input, there should be an output too. So we're going to work with output now. We're going to output notify. And what we're going to use this one is called an event emitter. So it's just going to create a new event pretty much like we did with the share button. we can just delete this because we're not going to be using constructors anyways on this. So we'll just delete all this. And then we should go to the alerts. That's there. And then where do we, okay. HTML. So how do I display an output? We used hard brackets for the input. For the output, I'm going to use parentheses. So click. So, and that's the name of our, or that's the event that's happening. And then notify dot emit. So that's the method of our event emitter. So based on that, yes. Sorry, I'm getting very mixed up, but okay. And so we're gonna, so we have the output, click notify that emit. And when we go back to our other HTML where we actually use the component, we can also put notify, and then this is gonna actually be the function that we're using. And we have to declare that function in the product list. So we're gonna be creating our own function. So I'm gonna do another window.alert because we don't have much going on. So this product will go on sale. Then when we, it should work. When you click notify me, it should say the product will go on sale. So just to go back to what I was doing is, so we have an input and output with a new component. This is pretty much just showing that two components can interact with one another. We go to product alerts. We have the input and then we have the output. This is just the event that's happening. It's going to emit an event. And then we have the, this is actually the event binding that's happening. Sorry, I'm mistaken. But it's going to notify and emit the event that's going on. And so that's pretty much the simple layout of what we can do with Angular. This is the basic like dynamic data components working with one another. And then what the next steps could be is going to navigation and managing data. So and also we can start using forms. So I don't know how much I'll be able to get to. Should I keep going on? How do you guys feel about it? If you guys feel good, then I can keep going. Otherwise, we can kind of just stop if you guys want to just take time to process this information. Feedback would be nice. Yes, but there are many ways to keep going, and there's so much to learn in Angular that has one of the highest learning curves that because there's so much information. So, all right, I'm down to keep going. Okay, so let's oh, okay, just clone the file. Diego, the GitHub has the branches for the different like steps that I take, so you can kind of just see like what I'm adding to each file. And this is being recorded too, so we can go back to it. Yeah. Work smarter, not harder. Yeah, yeah. No worries, no worries. All right. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go into the next kind of chapter, I guess, of what we're working on right now. I'm gonna work on the routing. So it's kind of like navigation. So what we're gonna do pretty much is when you click on the link right here, the title, it'll pretty much lead you to another page. So I guess it won't be too many lines. Yeah. So if you guys downloaded this application, you guys should have a app routing module. when you first generate the Angular application, you have an option to say no, I don't want to add routing. That's if you don't want any routes in your application. But for us, we want to kind of experiment with everything. We want to get a little taste of everything that you can do with Angular. So I already put the app routing module for you guys. And so what we're gonna do right here is we're gonna kind of edit it. So, okay, this might be a lot of code, but just hang on there. Okay, so we need to add, I'm just gonna, yeah, I'm gonna work a little harder. No, I'm gonna work smarter. For me, this is also on the second branch for the GitHub repo. Okay, wait. So what we want to do pretty much is get all the components and then just add it into add it to this routing. So wait, sorry about that. So what we're doing is, wait, let's see. Okay. Okay, my bad. Sorry guys, I did the wrong, this is the wrong file. We will get to this, we will get to this, we will get to this routing. This is actually, it's actually this file that I was supposed to look at. Sorry about that misunderstanding. But so what we're gonna do is we have to add it. The router module is actually imported. We need to just add the route. So what we're gonna do is path. It's pretty much the same format as this file right here, except that it's just a different path and a different component. So we want to add the products, and so what you can do, if you work with backend frameworks like the Django, you know that the colon is like the variable, so I can put product ID. So this is a variable while the products in the slash is static. And then I'm going to put the component. We will actually have to generate a new component as well. So sorry, I'll generate the new component before I do this, so it doesn't get I don't get any errors. So ngg component, and then we're gonna name it product, and then slash details, and then it should generate. Looks like we gotta wait a bit before it loads again. And then it's already imported, as you can see, automatically generated. And then I'm going to use that component. So product detail component is pretty much just to display, like, if you go, for example, if you go on Amazon and you click on the item, it's going to lead you to another page that has more details about it. It's like the page for the product. So that's pretty much what we're going to make in this little part of the tutorial. So we have the path, product ID, and then the component. We haven't made this component yet, but we will. So doesn't do anything yet. That's right. Okay. And so that should be all for the app.module TypeScript file. And what we do now is we go to the list actually. So we go to the list, the HTML, and then we're going to add a new property called router link. So this is this comes with the Angular routing. What we're going to do is we're going to put the route link pretty much. So this is like the source for the link in HTML. So we're gonna add products and then product.id. So same thing, product is from here. So we can store the ID right here. So this clicking this button will lead to a new route that has localhost 4200 and then products and then 1. So if I click that right now, it already shows a new component. And if I go back and I click on the name, it leads to that component where it says product details. So it's the product details component. And so what we can just do now is we're just gonna play with the HTML file. You can delete the test file again. We're just gonna go to the HTML file and we're gonna just edit that. And the same with the component. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna import activated route from Angular router. And then what we're gonna also do is import products. I'm gonna do that so it's simple. And then so product. So this colon, usually we're used to like the assignment operator, but this colon is part of TypeScript where we can declare what like type, what class it is. So it's pretty much like in Java, if you do this, like new product, that's pretty much the same thing. So you can't put a string for it. It's giving me an error because it's not a product type. And so, yes, that's correct. And then you can also put undefined. So if it's not a product, then it's just undefined. That also works too. And so what we're gonna do, we're gonna actually use the constructor this time. We're gonna make a new route. It's the activated route that we have declared right here. So this is a built-in part of Angular routing. There are many other features part of it too, so you might want to read documentation on it. And then we're gonna also use ng init. So this is what happens on initialization of the component. So that's when we go to this new page, that's when it will be initialized. So what we're gonna do is declare route params. So this dot route dot. So this is going to be a param map. So it's going to be like a map of all the parameters. And so what we really need from this parameter that's in this URL is we just need the product ID. So we just need that one. So how can we get that one? We can get it by, so this is just like a dictionary. It's like a hash map. You can just use the get, and then product ID. So we remember we named product ID as the variable in the path. So we can get product ID using the map. And then we declared the product. Now we're gonna initialize it on initialization of the component. And then we're gonna do products dot find. So this is a method of a list. And then we're gonna do product.id is equal to product ID from route. So what this line is doing is we're gonna find a product from this list of products where the ID is equal to the product ID. And right now you won't really be able to see if it's working or not because nothing's displayed on the page. But once we display dynamic data, you'll be able to recognize that it's working properly. So this is the code from there. And then this will most likely be the last thing that I'll be going over, but the HTML, I'm gonna go to product details. And then I'm gonna just display And then, so this product is coming from the component. So if there is a product, then I'm gonna display product name, product dot price, and then Angular also has a thing called pipe, where you can kind of format your code. So currency formats it so it's in so if we're displaying price, we want to display like a currency. So you have that. So it's there's a lot of other different pipe. Yes, using pipes. So we can use date pipe, uppercase, lowercase, currency, decimal, percent. So there's a lot of different ones we're using, but for our sake, we just need currency. And then last but not least, what am I doing? I'm going to display the product description. Okay. And it's giving me an error. I don't know why it's giving me a red. Okay. It should be working regardless. I don't know. Okay. It should be working. Price, yeah. And so now that you see, you can press this button and you'll get the product details. So we get the route parameter 1, and then we look for an element that has the ID of 1, and then we're gonna set that to the product. And then the product will be displayed in the HTML file, the name, currency. As you can see, we didn't even type in a $sign, but it automatically did it for us, and then it displays the description. So this is all for today. It's a little short and sweet guide on Angular. You can definitely go here, and there's tutorials from Try It. You can pretty much just get it from here. There's also a lot more documentation on what's going on with Angular, like what you can do, what you can't do, and then you can also go learn it through online courses and other online resources on how to use Angular for apps so that you can get started on your solution challenge. So that's all for today. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and yeah.